Sales Babble is sponsored by Pearl Diver, turning website visits into leads. Sales Babble is sponsored by the Science of Scaling podcast, helping businesses scale revenue. This is the Sales Babble podcast, episode 489, The Founding of Pearl Diver, an interview with Nick Lissette. This week, I've been listening to the Science of Scaling podcast, hosted by Mark Roberge. Mark is the best-selling author of the Sales Acceleration Formula and a senior lecturer at Harvard Business School. Well, each week, he interviews some of the most successful sales leaders in tech. People like Mike Weir and Kyle Parrish, VP of Sales at Figma. As you folks know, my entire career has been in the tech and startup space, and as VP of Sales, I know the importance of having a close relationship with marketing, development, and support. That's why the message Kyle Parrish shared on the Science of Scaling podcast really resounds with me. Kyle's insights on focusing on the overall customer experience is spot on. This podcast provides actionable advice any business looking to scale for growth will value. Check it out. Search for the Science of Scaling in your favorite podcast app. That's the Science of Scaling podcast. And you can also find links in the show notes.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers, and today on Sales Babble, we meet Nick Lissette, the founder and chief executive officer at Black Pearl Group. Now, Black Pearl is the company that created our sponsor, Pearl Diver. Pearl Diver is the tool that allows you to see who's visiting your website, even if they never sign up or connect with you. Nick has over a decade of experience working with cloud-based services. He started with anti-spam software and now leverages his expertise to use big data technology to help sales organizations discover hot leads. Today, Nick and I talk about startups, technology, sales, and most importantly, lead generation. Fascinating conversation about one of my favorite topics. But before we get started, make sure and subscribe to the podcast. That way, you'll never miss an episode. And so, with no further ado, let's get to it. Welcome, Nick. Are you ready to babble?
I'm definitely always up for a good babble.
Awesome. Well, Nick, I was on Crunchbase today, and they had an interesting comment about you. Do you want to hear it?
Fire away. I'm on edge. You've come in hot.
It says, quote, Nick is an entrepreneur's entrepreneur with a keen knack of identifying emerging technologies and markets. So what's inspired you to become an entrepreneur? What drove you to start a business, to found a business?
Well, when you're as ugly as I am and as stupid as I am, you're not very employable. So you've not got choices. You've got to make your own company. It's the only thing I ever wanted to do. And it's so funny, like ever since I can recall from being 5 or something, if you ever asked me what I was going to be a businessman, which was what it was known as in New Zealand. The term entrepreneur really only became a thing to refer to yourself as, when I was about 20 odd. And so I actually started my first company at 24. I've only ever had one job. And when I left university, or as you say in America, college, I had a job selling commercial rubbish bins or commercial trash bins. Again, I'm Americanizing things. Right. So, the trucks that come in, but that was my one and only job, was selling that. And then I had an opportunity for $1 to buy a telecommunications dealership, because it was basically going under and not making any money. And so I knew I was going to take an absolute beat down because I knew very little about business, but I knew that was a good way to learn. That's what I did at 24.
A telecom company, like a PBXs, like you ran PBXs? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we were selling anything and everything. So PABXs definitely were something we sold. But interestingly, the thing we leaned into most was internet security, and it was at a time where in New Zealand, at least, it was internet was really expensive, and you would pay a lot of money if you went over your bandwidth. If you went over 5 gigabytes, you'd pay by the gig, like astronomical money, and people would get bill shock all the time. So we found this box that essentially would monitor your bandwidth and restrict it down if you went over your quota. And so that was really the thing that we focused on selling. And it was actually through selling that led me into kind of the first product or company I founded, which had its own technology, and that was an anti-spam, because we getting all these people saying, "Hey, great, thank you for helping us, with the bandwidth issue. We've got a real big problem with spam. Can you help us there?" And of course, being jumping onto opportunities as they come up, I said, absolutely, we can help you with that spam issue, and then went around figuring out how we'd go around doing that.
I saw that you had a very negative attitude about spam, and I remember spam was just a real pain early in the 2000s. From that, it seems like that was a good foundation for the founding of Pearl Diver. I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, the anti-spam was an interesting journey. I actually built and sold two different anti-spam companies, so I just did a bit of a rinse and repeat there, so to speak. And during the second one, I really started noticing some interesting trends with how people would respond to email or not respond to email. And I realized that, email is quite it's an elephant in the room when you talk about digital communication. It's by far and above the most used form of business to business communication. It's still the system of record in America and around the world. And yet no one really focuses on it. Yet is the thing that you're trying to avoid, and everyone tries to create these new channels. So I thought, is there an opportunity to look at email and make it more effective, to look at the data behind email and then serve that up to customers in a way that makes their life easier? That was the whole genesis behind founding Black Pearl Group. And, that's the company we're at today. And the whole purpose of Black Pearl Group is we create AI powered sales and marketing tools for small businesses. So that's what we do. And you talked about Pearl Diver. That's an awesome example of kind of the technology that we create and market, because it solves such a huge problem for small businesses, medium businesses, and big businesses. But our tribe's small to medium sized businesses. They're the people we engineer for. And what Pearl Diver does is it takes all the anonymous website visits and actually puts names and numbers to them, so you can actually see the people that are turning up to your website. And I don't mean just like what company they're from. I mean their first name, last name, email address, job titles, income range of those companies, like everything you need, so that you can spend less money to Facebook and less money to Google on lead generation, actually be able to very affordably, manage those opportunities yourself without having to keep paying money.
When I first heard about this, when you guys first reached out to me, I was very excited about the product because I can totally see how it works. I'm assuming you're using some kind of big data technology, right? I'm assuming you're looking at IP addresses, maybe they're coming in, and you know something about them from some other place they were at, and then kind of putting that all together, correct?
That's actually a really good guess about how it works, and not too far from the truth. So what Pearl Diver does, it sits invisibly on your website and it captures first-party identifiers. These are the normal things that kind of exchanged when someone goes to browse on your website, and that will be a made ID, like your mobile ID and an IP address. And of course, there's a small utilization of cookies, although we don't rely on them. So we get as much first-party identifiers as we can, and we do that to kind of triangulate or build a profile of this visitor. And then we take that profile and we reconcile it against a data resolution network, which is essentially just basically a huge cooperative of data sharing in a GDPR and California Data Act compliant way.
Mm-hmm.
So we're taking those sort of numbers and IP addresses, matching against this profile and serving that profile up to our customers. So I think of ourselves as like data finders. We're not data miners. We're not scraping the internet for anything. We're actually using a sort of far more eloquent way of getting that information, and again in a way that's sort of totally compliant and effective.
Yeah. Now you said it's appropriate for small, medium, large businesses, but if we can narrow that down maybe to your ideal client, is there a specific kind of client that you found, or maybe you've got a few buckets, maybe you got like the top three that's a really, really good fit for this tool?
Yep, there are definitely three that come to mind. The first is a solopreneur, right? An entrepreneur. And again, these are the people that I empathize with because that's my journey and where I've come from, right? And these are the people that don't have what's scarcest for them, time and money. They're their two scarcest resources. So they want to sell to the best opportunities, and they need them in real time, and they don't want to spend a whole lot of money getting it. And that is exactly what Pearl Diver does. Not only is it capturing the people that turn up to your website, but it ranks their engagement. And so you can see what your ideal customer is and how many times they've visited your site. And typically would say that's a prime customer that's hotly engaged. They're the ones you want to speak to. So it's great for people that don't like CRMs, aren't going to have complicated marketing, Marketo and all these flows and stuff like that. If you just need a blunt instrument to find people to speak to that are interested in your products, that's great. The next bucket is the more sophisticated ones, and they're people like marketing managers. So while they'll still serve up the hot leads directly to their sales team, and of course that's a great benefit for a marketing manager because that's what every salesperson wants is hot leads, the other advantage marketing managers get about it is they can use the data that's coming in to basically radically reduce their amount of paid marketing but make it more effective. How do you do that? Because you only retarget your paid marketing budgets to the people that you want to, your prime customers.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it helps you actually craft your avatar.
Yeah, correct. So as a good example for us, like we use Pearl Diver on our own Pearl Diver site. And who we want to sell to is solopreneurs, marketing managers, and digital marketing agencies. They're our primary ones, right? And so we have the paid marketing campaign, retargeting campaigns we use with Facebook and Google display ads only to those people. So if you're not an ideal customer for us, we're not spending advertising dollars retargeting to you because we've got a specific list of people that have turned up to the website. So it's from marketing manager, that is just, as we say in New Zealand, manna from heaven, right? That is exactly what you want. The third bucket is digital marketing agencies. They're our partners. And the challenge they have is that in the current economy, there is a squeeze coming in on marketing budgets for sure. And the first ones to suffer the wrath of that are digital marketeers because they're in between a rock and a hard place. It's a hard place to live. Pearl Diver is an awesome product for them to supply to their customers because, again, they can take all that hard work that they've done to bring traffic to that website and then find the hotly engaged opportunities and serve it up to their clients, or use that to manage down the wasted spend for Facebook and Google. So essentially they go from zero to hero with this product because they're serving up hot leads, which every business wants, and they're reducing the paid spend and wasted paid spend. So they're the kind of three main ones for us. that we like to focus on. But of course, there's plenty of different other avatars that get value from it.
How have you been able to stand out from the competition? Is there competition? I don't think so, right?
Yeah, a little bit. There's a little bit of competition that will tell you who turns up to your website. And there's a varying degree of how good that their data is, and everyone says their data is the best. Our data is great because it goes right down to individual level, which makes it useful. And there's a couple of people that do that. But where we are really unique and where the magic happens is we're not just relying on website, because as you would have heard from the start of this, there are a few people in the world that understand more about cloud email than myself and my team. And while I joke that makes my work stories terrible, I mean, never invite me to a cocktail party. Your guests will run a mile when I start telling them about the wicked world of email. Where the benefit is to understanding about that is we do some amazing things with email. And so Pearl Diver isn't just about web traffic, it's the intersection of your web traffic and email traffic. Now, if you think about the best person that you want to sell to, it's not just someone that's hotly engaged, it's someone that you've had communication with in the past. So you can see with Pearl Diver someone that's turned up to your website that maybe you emailed a year ago. Why is that amazing? Because they're probably back in market. They're reevaluating the current service they've got. They're an existing customer that's looking at more of your services. And they're the easiest ones to reach out to, because you just find that last email, reply, hey, I was just thinking about you, Pat. We've got this new product I think you'd be interested in, or can we do this for you, or that. It's very serendipitous. I think about flows. It's a very easy flow and great way of doing it. And that's why we call it Pearl Diver, because they are the real gems. They are the pearls. And what we're really good at is finding them for you. Other people will just give you data. And I don't believe knowledge is power. Knowledge and action is power. And what we do is giving you the best course of action.
I like that. That's wisdom. Yeah. What kind of results are your customers seeing?
Well, I can tell you the biggest advocate of it is ourselves, and our revenue has been increasing using our own product at such massive velocities. Actually, we're a public company. We released our monthly sales results the other day. Our stock went up 12%. So that to give you an example of what sort of turnaround we're getting from our own product. The feedback has been amazing. And again, like in this world where cash is king, what do you want to do? You want to raise revenue and you want to cut costs. And that is exactly what this product does, like those two things to a T. And that's why the customers get such great, you get, we managed to, halve our Facebook spend, or we've increased. Greatest quote we got the other day, someone said, I've had this a week and it's paid for itself for 10 years. And it was exactly that scenario I talked about, with the intersection of email and people turning up to the website. So what happens, this guy was in commercial real estate, so obviously the big ticket items, and it was someone that was looking at his website that he had tried to sell something to a year before, but he didn't get over the line. And so he could see that this guy was coming back on his website. So, just reached out, hey, Mike, it's Nick here from ABC Commercial Real Estate, or I obviously wouldn't give the customer's name here, but confidential, but said, hey, look, I was just thinking about you. I actually got a nice property. I don't know if you're back in the market. And the guy said, that's funny you mentioned that. I am back in the market. Your timing's great. And he won the deal. He knocked, there was the competition weren't even in it, because he was first in. And that was his comment. He goes, this has paid for itself for 10 years after the first week. And we're like, that's what I want to hear. Because I say to any customer that I speak to directly, and my sales team should always say the same thing, the second that Pearl Diver isn't delivering great results for you, like probably not quite that good, but good results for you, you should fire us. Because I never want to be a burden on a customer's P&L. I want to be revenue generating, not a cost burden. And so that's the way we engineer our products, we price our products, and we support them.
I love that. What's been the biggest challenge rolling this Pearl Diver out?
The biggest challenge rolling this out is that, you know what, there hasn't, like, it's a question that I can't, like, it's been so much fun, and there hasn't been that like, I mean, I've been in business a long time, and so I've got pretty thick skin. You take some beat downs if you've been in business 20 years like I have. You've taken companies public, you bought and sold them, you go through some tough times. Occasionally you just get this magic. Your timing's great, the pricing's great, the customer, the market wants it. So there hasn't been any real issue with it, actually. We've just got probably the best customer support team. I can actually hear them talking back there. I sit on the bullpen with everyone else, and they set customers up for success. So when you've got great people, adding to great technology, typically things go pretty well. So, I don't think there's nothing to complain about. This was a great opportunity to complain about something as well. No one ever asked me for the bad news, but give me an opportunity to talk about it. But I got nothing for you.
You guys are in New Zealand. In fact, I think you got people spread all over the world.
We do.
Is that hard? Is that difficult?
Is it hard living in New Zealand?
No. Everybody I've ever met who went to New Zealand just went on and on. What a lovely, lovely country it is.
Thank you. Very kind. No, we do. We have staff all around the world, and most of the sales and marketing team, of course, based out of the States. That's our primary market. We're very lucky with our Chief Revenue Officer, Cheryl Presley, who is the head of global partnerships for Microsoft and scale partnerships for Google. So we've got some serious players, and she is out of Scottsdale, Arizona. So our chairman, Tim Crown's also the chairman of Insight Enterprises, which is a Fortune 500 company on the NASDAQ, and he's Arizona. So actually my adopted state is Arizona. I don't find the time zones a problem. I actually love it, because I wake up first thing in the morning, I have people to speak to. 10 p.m. at night, I have people to speak to. And when you're a business maniac like me, and you don't sleep much, it's a huge advantage, because it's 24/7, baby. We're going all the time, and it's fun. Yeah.
I totally get that. I briefly lived in Southeast Asia for a while, about 6-7 years ago, and it was weird working at the time zones, but you can totally do it. You can totally do it.
It's not a big gap between New Zealand and America, actually. Like, it takes a long time to fly, and typically I come over about every 60 days, so it's about 24 hours.
Yeah, that often.
Yeah. Oh. I used to be more frequently. I used to come over. I used to be 2 weeks here and 2 weeks in the States for just before COVID kicked in, which was tough. I didn't realize at the time, but looking back, it was tough. Because I'm in Wellington, so I have to go from Wellington to Auckland to LA, and then LA to Arizona. So it's quite a trip. But it's only, with Pacific time, either 4 or 5 hours difference. East Coast is a bit more tricky from New Zealand, but our team wake up early. And the great advantage of that, you see, especially when you're dealing with US times, is that our afternoons are quiet. And when it's Friday afternoon in New Zealand, strong cultural thing, which would be having a beer at 3 p.m. at a pub. So you don't have to worry, because everyone's asleep.
Thing to do. That's not a bad cultural.
Well, yeah. Depends. You don't want any customer support calls at that time, that's for sure.
No. So if people wanted to learn more, and they've been hearing the ads running every week here on the podcast, but it certainly bears repeating. If people want to learn more about Pearl Diver, what's the best way of doing that?
I would say, I know this is, people going to go, oh, no, I don't want to do that. But just reach out to our team, right? And you don't have to speak to the salespeople. If you want to speak to one of the engineers, then ask to speak to them. If you want to speak to the customer success people, speak to them. If you want to speak to me and we can get some time, I'll speak to customers all the time. It's my favorite part of the job. So what I'd say is that we'll only provide the service to people where we're going to see value and we know we're going to get a long lifetime customer. So our aim is to make sure we have customers for 4 to 5 years. That's how you make money in the world of SaaS. You don't make money. We don't have contracts, and we're a low-cost service. So like literally we live and die by the value we give to people. So if we're not going to provide people value, or we can't, if your traffic's too low or it's the wrong kind of traffic, we'll just call it out and just say, hey, look, this is probably not a great fit, but let's keep in touch. So I just have the conversation. And we actually have a pretty friendly sales team. Some of them are actually New Zealanders, so you can have a good laugh at their accent. Interestingly, the sales team there's Americans, but there's lots of Canadians and New Zealanders, and there's a Brazilian. And so I think we probably have the most polite sales team you've ever met in your life. If you like, the New Zealanders and Canadians were like, yes, sorry, I'm very, very sorry for calling you. It's the softest sales team you've ever met in your life.
Well, that is what this podcast is all about. This podcast is all about not pushing. It's about allowing. It's about allowing customers to make decisions that are good for themselves. And
totally.
As great salespeople, we're just here to help facilitate that. I totally believe it. Here in 2023, that's the only way to do it, especially when it comes to sophisticated B2B sale.
I think the one thing we always say here is think of yourself as the customer. And if you are sitting there as a customer and you can't think how you're going to make money with this, then that's the answer. You can't, right? Our job is actually just to always put ourselves in other people's shoes. And the sales team we have is actually, they're really experienced. I mean, they're not young bucks. They're seasoned because they've spoken or been in business in a wide amount of industries, so they can truly empathize. That's the word, empathy. If you don't have deep empathy with your customers or potential customers, if you're just after what's in it for you, then you shouldn't be in the game, in my opinion. And certainly you wouldn't have a place in our company, because we're about, customers are our lifeblood, and it's about adding great value and putting the customer's concerns and needs always ahead of your own.
That is just terrific advice. That is spot on. Well, Nick, thank you very much for taking a moment to stop by and visit the podcast. Thank you very much for sponsoring the podcast. I love your message. I love your product here, and the advice that you're just giving these sales folks is gold. Thank you very, very much.
I really appreciate the opportunity, and anytime I get to speak to salespeople, I mean, as I said, the only job I had was in sales, and I still consider myself a salesman. I'm a CEO of a public company, but I consider myself a salesman because it's a hard job, right? It's the hardest job out there, in my opinion. And so anytime you can share a little insight or make something to help out, who are the what we call them in New Zealand, battlers, people that go out there and take it and work in the coal mines and get out there and get their hands dirty, right? So that's why I've always got time. Salespeople all the time. Keep it up. Keep it up.
Awesome. Well, thanks. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Pat. Thank you so much for having me.
To connect with Nick and to learn more about Pearl Diver, you can find links in the show notes at www.salesbabble.com. You can also find links for our other sponsor, the Science of Scaling podcast, the podcast that helps businesses scale revenue. Now, if you have any questions about sales or lead generation, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn or click on the Babble Me button on the website. Anything you type in there will go directly to me. With that said, that's all I have for this week. Until next Tuesday, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.